when you are a good leader, you want to have diverse people around you. So I'm not fond of saying, okay, we have to have 30% here or 30% there, because that has a boomerang effect that eventually you cannot control.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe von Handelsblatt Disrupt, dem Podcast über neue Ideen, Disruption und die Zukunft der digitalen Welt. Mein Name ist Sebastian Matthes und ich begrüße Sie wie immer ganz herzlich aus unserem Podcaststudio hier in Düsseldorf. Belén Garijo steht an der Spitze von Merck, einem der ältesten Pharma- und Chemiekonzerne der Welt. Ein deutscher Konzern, der sich heute immer mehr zu einem globalen Wissenschafts- und Technologieunternehmen wandelt. Als sie den Job im Mai 2021 übernahm, war sie die erste Frau an der Spitze eines Dax-Konzerns. Im Podcast spreche ich heute mit Belén Garijo über ihre massiven Investitionen in Forschung und Entwicklung, über die KI-Revolution und wie die Technik die Wissenschaft verändern wird. Merck zum Beispiel nutzt künstliche Intelligenz, um neue Medikamente in einer nie dagewesenen Geschwindigkeit zu entwickeln. Aber wir sprechen auch über ihre Karriere. Welche Erfahrungen hat sie gemacht? Warum hat es ihr geholfen, ihre eigene Körpersprache zu trainieren, gerade in einer Wirtschaftswelt, die noch immer stark von Männern dominiert wird? Und warum ist sie trotzdem kein Fan von Frauenquoten? Garijo ist gebürtige Spanierin. Sie hat Medizin in Madrid studiert und wir diskutieren auch darüber, was sie auf diesem Weg geprägt hat. Vom Krankenhaus in Madrid über das Pariser Pharmaunternehmen Sanofi bis an die Spitze von Merck in Darmstadt. Welche Fehler hat sie gemacht? Welche Philosophie verfolgt sie heute als CEO? Und nicht zuletzt, was kommt eigentlich als nächstes für Belén Garijo? Denn ihr Vertrag läuft im nächsten Jahr aus. Das und viel mehr jetzt bei Handelsblatt Disrupt.
Nach einer kurzen Unterbrechung geht es gleich weiter. Bleiben Sie dran.
Konjunkturschwäche, Investitionsstau und geopolitische Unordnung? Wie kann Deutschland den Neustart schaffen? Beim Handelsblatt-Bankengipfel am 3. und 4. September 2025 in Frankfurt treffen sich führende Akteure aus Politik, Aufsicht, Finanzwelt und Wirtschaft, um Lösungen für die kommenden Herausforderungen zu finden. Das Motto: Geopolitik, Disruption, Wirtschaftsflaute. Was Banken und Fintechs jetzt erfolgreich macht. Melden Sie sich jetzt an und sichern Sie sich 15% Rabatt mit dem Code BANKENGIPFEL25.
Übrigens, wer das Handelsblatt nicht nur sporadisch, sondern intensiv über ein ganzes Jahr lang lesen möchte, und das kann ich nur empfehlen, kann sich jetzt 50% Rabatt sichern. Der Rabatt gilt für unsere digitalen H+-Abos und die gedruckte Zeitung. Bis zum 11. August heißt es also noch: alles wissen, die Hälfte zahlen. Mehr dazu unter handelsblatt.com/Sommerrabatt. Und damit jetzt zu meinem Gespräch mit Belén Garijo, CEO des Darmstädter Pharmakonzerns Merck, die mir nun live hier im Studio gegenübersteht. And now let's switch to English. Hello, Belén.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
In preparing for our conversation, I came across an intriguing detail. You reportedly set yourself a new personal goal every week. Is that true?
Even every day. This is true.
So what is it today?
Well, today, for example, is my first time in Düsseldorf.
Right.
Believe it or not. So I really gave myself the goal to enjoy and visit the city a bit.
So how was that going so far?
So far I have been here, as a priority. Then we will see.
And do you remember when you started this habit and what changed that for you?
Look, for me, one of the most important things in development is being self-aware. Mm-hmm. Right? When you are self-aware, you never stop giving yourself new challenges. And most importantly, all of us, no matter how senior we are or how much time we have spent in business, we always discover and have to deal with new things. Mm. Look at the world.
Yes.
Right? And from many, many years ago, when I started to be a bit more self-aware, right? I realized that I have tons of things to improve, mostly to make a higher impact to the people I'm working with. And that was really guiding me to look at myself and think and reflect, okay, what can I do better to increase my impact?
What does self-awareness really mean for you?
Self-awareness is being aware of the strengths that you have and also the weaknesses.
And what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses?
I think I can, I feel I am a very open, honest, transparent, genuine person with the ability to engage teams. I am self-demanding and therefore I really demand a lot from others. And when this comes to challenging times, I can be too demanding, right? So
I heard about that.
I think unfairly people qualifies me as tough and cold, which I don't believe I am. But that is precisely what self-awareness means. If I look at you and you believe that I am intimidating, no matter the way I feel, impressions are reality. And therefore I have to make sure that people look at me the way I am. So that's an area for improvement. This is what self-awareness means. Not being afraid of accepting your areas for development.
And was there a certain event when you thought, okay, I have to work on my self-awareness, or was that something you worked on all your life?
Something that really opened my eyes. This is very funny because I remember every year we had a global leadership meeting with our 150 leaders.
At Merck?
At Merck. So probably 10 years ago, right? I was still participating as one of those 150 leaders, but I have to speak. And I have to speak on the stage. And then I was recorded.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at myself, right, in that video, I was shocked because my energy, the passion that I was putting on the topic actually made me look like a shark. And I was like, oh my God, And that was an eye-opener in a way. And I said, okay, I really have to manage my body language in a better way so I can really convey the messages in a warm way, right? And pass this energy that I feel and this passion that I feel in a very different way.
So what did you do? Did you do trainings?
I did training. And most importantly, I tried to be looking at myself and my body language. I mean, I speak in public many, many times a day, for smaller things, for bigger things, but usually for good news, for bad news. When you have to communicate tough news, right? I discovered that if you do it in a very candid and warm way, people are actually embracing this much better than when you simply deliver the news in a much colder way. So you train yourself, right? By looking at you and saying, okay, what if I smile a bit more when I speak?
Sure.
And that's something that the more senior you are, the more you have to practice. And it's sometimes allowing you to express yourself in a much more genuine way.
You are the leader for more than 60,000 people. How is it possible to connect to such a big group of people, or is that something you wouldn't even try?
Oh, I try. That is what is giving me tremendous energy. When I am in front of the teams and you see how much commitment they have, how much engagement they have in their jobs, how excited they are to succeed. I mean, this is really moving me. This is giving me tons of energy.
But how is it possible to connect thousands of people? You don't even know their names. They work in remote places all over the world. So what are your tools to connect? Is that
First of all, I try to be accessible. So I always say, each and every person in the company, any, can get to my calendar no matter what. Mm-hmm. And my office...
Really?
Absolutely.
How does your calendar look like?
No, I mean, people do not abuse these topics, So my office has instructions that a very clear mandate that each and every person that would call on me for a discussion will get on my calendar no matter what. So being accessible is, to me, is very important, because that is, in a way, putting me at a level of care that I hope people appreciate. Then, obviously, I try to go to countries as often as I can. And when I go to countries, I spend a significant amount of time not only reviewing the business, but speaking to people. And this is where we feel at our best. I think that the one-on-one communication is always paying back. And I try to use every opportunity to illustrate that I care.
Let's talk about your career. When you started as a young woman in Spain, it was not that clear that you would become one of the most important leaders of the European economy as CEO of a big pharmaceutical company. What was driving you back then when you studied medicine and tried to become a doctor?
When I was studying medicine, I was driven by a deep vocation. I really grew, even when I didn't have too many doctors in my family, but I really grew thinking that I could really help people to live a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And
many years later, you became CEO. So what went wrong?
I think what drove me to the industry was basically need, right? So I didn't want to stay in my parents' house when I became 25, right? After finishing my studies, and I wanted to live my own life. So I needed a work.
You started in Madrid in hospital, right?
But I finished my residency in the hospital, and my obsession was to stay in the hospital, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it because at that time we were 25,000 people applying to residency and only 1,000 getting a place in a hospital. So I was fortunate enough to go to the residency, but once I finished, I couldn't stay in the hospital, which was my dream, right? So
because no job. That has changed.
So I had options, but I decided to go to pharma, in R&D, because my vision at the time was like, why not? It's an area in which they will need well-trained people, and I felt I was ready to try new things. And this has been a feature during my career.
One of your first jobs was Abbott Laboratories in the United States. So what was it to come from Europe to the United States? How different was?
No, I started in Spain, and I started very low. I was a clinical monitor in a team of 3 people, 2 men and I, and without knowing anything in the industry, I was trying to discover at the same time that I was trying to build. And in reality, I built a clinical research team in Spain that never existed before, simply because I thought, why not to try? The corporation had a lot of respect for the Spanish affiliate. It was a very commercial affiliate, but we didn't have so much science at the time and so much research. So I started this, and to make the story short, in 3 years' time, I ended up with a full team of 20 plus people and tons of clinical research in the HIV field, in the AIDS field. That was an area in which Abbott was researching a lot, and they were pioneers. And unfortunately, at that time, Spain was a country in which AIDS was very highly prevalent, and therefore we found the win-win, and Spain became one of the pioneer developers of new HIV drugs.
And then later you went to the United States.
And then I went to the United States. Yes, I was like pregnant of my second daughter, and that's the importance of mentoring. So I have a mentor who was the head of scientific affairs, and he was the one encouraging me. I mean, he was the one trusting me more than I trusted myself. So he came one day to Spain and said, Belén, I want you to come to the US because I think you have potential, and, we want to continue to develop you. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, let's go. And I moved to the US as International Medical Affairs Director, and this is where I learned in my first expatriation how to live outside in a country that I have never even visited before. Right?
How was it coming to the United States in a pretty young age with young kids?
It was tough. Simply tough, The company helped me a lot.
And how was it different to Europe?
It was completely a new world for me, right? So, in the US, if you don't have a driver's license, which is the equivalent to your identity card in Europe, you are no one. You don't exist. You cannot open a bank account. You cannot go to the doctor. You cannot rent a house. So
you just stay at home because there's no public transport in many areas.
Absolutely. So no, the company helped me a lot to get settled, but I was a local. I wasn't under an expat, what we call an expat contract. So I was a local. I was on my own. The company helped me to get settled. They helped me to find a house. They helped me to open a bank account, to get my social security number, etc., etc. But it was tough because, as I mentioned, I was pregnant of my second daughter, who is an American and was born in the US. And my mentor told me, look, I know the way it is, if you don't come now, you will never come. So you come now. We will help you. And I jumped to the pool, right? Which in a way is like, the way, is what I call, when I think of people development, what I call the shared risk of development. He bet on me, he trusted me, and I trusted that was a good move for me and for my family at the time. So, but it was tough. It was tough.
What did you learn about mentoring? I'm sure you're a mentor for many young employees now. So what is the most important thing you try to teach them?
To gain confidence,
How do you gain confidence?
What I said before is very important. It's a very important mantra for me. It's like I said, I grew because someone trusted me more than I trusted myself, right? So when you give trust to people, people respond, and they don't want to let you down. And they give the best of themselves to really reach expectations at the level that is required. So that never failed me, and that also taught me that betting on people in which you see potential is always a great investment, because, they give the best, but you also stay vigilant and mentoring so that they, go through the highway at a higher and a higher speed.
You became a leader at quite young age in an industry that has been dominated by male colleagues until today, I guess, in many companies. How was that like, and how did you cope with that?
I mean, I never felt discriminated, and I never shied away to say a few things. I tell you an anecdote. I told you before that when I joined Abbott, we were 3 people in the department, in the medical department. So I had 2 male and I, and the male were addressed as Dr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, and I was called Belén. So one day I went to them and I said, okay, the only doctor here is me.
Is that true?
So I'm very sorry, but either you call all of us by the name, or
the doctor.
I am also Dr. Garijo, right? And they said, oh, okay, she has a point, And things like this is something that I did very early on. So I never shied away from having the courage to put the elephant in the room in front of the ones responsible. That is something that I will never forget. I said, well, how many doctors are we here? Actually, I'm the only one.
and you're not the biggest fan of a quota, right?
I'm not a big fan of the quota, and I have long debates with other people on what I believe, which is I have an ambition and I definitely give objectives, right? And people ask me, what is the difference between a quota and an objective? Quota is coercitive, right? Having an objective is, something that you give to yourself and to the organization. And I am not fan of the quota because it can be perverse. It can be perverse, and you...
In what way?
In what way? You may choose people who are not up to the job simply to meet...
Do you see that happening?
...the quota. I have seen that happening in the past, not at Merck, because, we try the best to be a meritocracy, right? And we have a talent... I believe on a talent development process that is not discriminating. And for this you have to be really having a tone from the top that is not ambiguous. Is, why him and not her? And you have to really know exactly what is guiding your talent decisions. So that is, I consider this to be a leadership quality and a leadership priority. And when you are a good leader, you want to have diverse people around you. So I'm not fond of saying, okay, we have to have 30% here or 30% there, because that has a boomerang effect that eventually you cannot control. And the second element is that, And
the boomerang effect is that the quality is decreasing.
It's not that the quality, it's not only that, but it's that each and every underrepresented person that is of any population that is nominated will be questioned and will be actually demanded to do even more to show that, this person is better than the other. I have seen this in certain cultures, and over my career, I have seen positive discrimination that didn't end up being a good learning for the organization. So my preference is that we put this in the mind of leaders, that diversity and inclusion is a competitive advantage, and that, you cannot survive without having people around you who will tell you different things.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. And how did diversity improve while you were CEO?
If I look at the numbers, already in healthcare, we had a super high percentage of senior leaders of above 40%.
Female
senior leaders, and in the group we have 39%. So which is a significant benchmark for other companies. And not only in the traditional functions like HR or regulatory or, communications, but across the board, we have many business leaders, many senior business leaders who are female leaders. And the other thing is that quota is a one shot, right? But it's not sustainable. When you pick the best, no matter what, male or female, right? Then, time, you may need a bit more time, but you get a top team that is diverse, which at the end is what it matters.
Yeah. Coming back to the time at Abbott in the United States, quickly, how did you get from there to Merck?
So in between, I inflection points, right? So I went from the hospital to pharma R&D, and then I went from pharma R&D to commercial. And I said to Abbott, I would love to go to commercial. They said, no, you have to be the head of R&D, the future head of R&D. And I was like, but I don't want that. I love R&D, but
still quite a big job.
I really want to try commercial, so I don't mind to go like a rep.
So what does that mean? You go out, do sales and everything?
Yeah. So I was ready to go 4 levels down and start from scratch.
You earned more money.
No, it was not a matter of money. It was a matter of starting a career in a different area. Not at all. So, I was ready to go down 4 or 5 levels to be able to grow back. And I was very fortunate that a company called Rompuleng at the time was building a new business in oncology, and they were looking for scientific profiles, so people with scientific backgrounds and all this. And then I moved back to Spain as the head of oncology to build the business from scratch, which was a fascinating experience. So I went from R&D to commercial. From commercial, I went to global positions, general management positions. I spent 15 years with Sanofi and all the predecessor companies. And then I came to Merck in 2011.
And you oversaw the merger with Sanofi as managing director of Avantis Spain, right?
Yes.
That was an interesting time.
That was a very interesting time, of course, because, I just came back from the US from a global position. I was starting to enjoy what was at the time my dream job. And it is still my dream job, being a general manager of a country, right? Of my own country at the time. And, I arrived, and 6 months later, we had the hostile takeover by Sanofi. So I was like, okay, what do we do now? And fortunately, we were caught in a very good performance situation. We were highly valued by the other side. And hopefully not because I was a female or one of the few females, but because of our results, I survived the merger. And I was nominated to make the integration of Sanofi and Aventis in Spain as the general manager of Sanofi Aventis. And after this, I was proposed to go to Europe, where I spent 6 years before coming to Merck.
So then you came to Merck, you came to Germany. Looking back to your career and all these leadership roles you had, how did you change as a leader in the years before you came to Merck?
I changed. I evolved. Hopefully, the essence
didn't change.
But I evolved as I was speaking earlier. Because I am from a generation in which, we like it or not, right? We compare ourselves with male executives, right? And there you run a risk of losing your essence. And I gave myself the goal and the mandate to stay myself, right? But I evolve as a leader, being able to accommodate my leadership style to the different styles I have to deal with, to the different people, right? People have different expectations, right? So you don't engage exactly in the same way. So by being a bit more aware of the other as well, you are able to engage and to bring people on board in a better way, right? So that was a big mandate that I gave to myself. And, I grew through feedback. At the beginning, I remember many, some of my mentors gave me great advices that we can discuss later that I didn't even understand at the time, that I could only apply and click on later on in my career. But I think the first piece of feedback that I got that actually shocked me, many, many, many years ago, and it was totally true. And I think, I still have to keep it in mind many times, is you have to listen more, right? And it's true, because listening is always learning. And the more you listen to the others, the more you are really driving the situation to the outcome that you want to get.
You've seen many innovations in your career. Some say that the technological revolution we are facing now when it comes to AI is the biggest one we've seen in decades. Some say in centuries. Looking at AI from a broader perspective, what do you see happening there right now, and what will this change in your industry?
I think everything, not only in my industry.
So you are more on the century side.
I think this is the digital revolution was already big progress, but what is happening and the speed at which AI is changing the world is, to me, is unprecedented, right? So you have to make a distinction between the hype and the reality.
So let's do it. Let's try this distinction. What is hype and what is the reality that is really changing the world?
I think the hype is and people may or may not agree with this vision, but my vision is that AI has to be integrated in your business to serve your priorities. So the frame under which we use AI is either to accelerate growth, and there you have a lot of things, right? You have customer insights, talent management, for which we use tons of, AI for better decision making, to be more efficient. So growth, efficiency, or accelerating innovation. Accelerating innovation is allowing us to make better choices when it comes to new products, right? Mainly pharma R&D. So that's the frame, right, under which we use it. I think the hype is when everybody wants to do their own thing in their own corner, right? And you end up with, I don't know, thousands of use cases that at the end are not going to support your priorities, your business priorities, your customer priorities. So that is the distinction, right? And honestly, I'm trying to educate myself to be a bit more efficient when using AI tools.
How do you personally use AI, and in what circumstances?
Mostly
in your
for
everyday
communication.
Life? Oh, and so when I am writing email to you, your bot will answer?
No, not necessarily, but for example, when I communicate, I have my own ideas, messages I can use to basically tweak tonality, to use, to basically, once again, use what is available to guide me on the way to position certain things. For example, and also to customize certain technical topics to audiences that may not be so familiar. Take spatial biology, right? And I had to talk to someone about this topic. And I was like, okay, what do I say? And then I use the chat, right, to give me the big lines to be able to better communicate with others. So I use it a lot for communication, customizing to audiences, certain topics, changing tonality of different messages. I also use it to help me go through complex presentations. So give me summaries of this or that, right? To raise questions on topics I may be less familiar with. I know how to evaluate my business, but if I have to get into a very technical topic, I may not be so familiar. So if I take the presentation through the ChatGPT, and we have one which is customized for Merck, then, I can get questions that will help me gain additional insights before making a decision. I haven't been able to use Copilot, for example, and I have someone in my office who is helping me and guiding me to be a bit more efficient. But I mostly use GPT for those topics.
Looking at your industry and maybe at Merck, but not only Merck, how will AI change what your company is doing today when it comes to research, but also when it comes to management, when it comes to business overall?
Well, first of all, for most of our people strategies and our, as I mentioned, for our talent management, democratizing talent, better scouting for talent in the organization, we have a platform that, is making me very proud, which is called My Growth, in which we have more than 50% of our employees mining data on skills and development areas, managing mentoring through the platform. And this is an AI-driven platform that is really having a huge impact in the way we deal with people topics. We are now developing our own artificial intelligence for drug discovery. We are also doing it in collaboration with other companies which may be more advanced than we are, but we are building our own lab. So this is work in progress, and we do it a lot for customer insights. So getting information on the customers to really shape our commercial approaches much more to the customer needs.
In what fields will AI have the greatest impact in the short term and maybe in the long term as well?
That's a good question. I mean, in our case, I believe that drug discovery in the midterm should be the one in which we should really focus and invest.
Will there be any laboratory working without AI in 10 years?
Probably not, one way or another.
And how much will the drug discovery become quicker with AI?
Much faster. I mean, the time, but it's not so. It's not only the timing.
What is AI doing exactly?
It's only the efficiency.
Yeah.
It's like if you have to make a selection of assets,
so
molecules.
You worked in a laboratory for a long time. So explain to me how the work will change in future and how it really will become quicker.
So when you have to design a new molecule, right? You spend a significant amount of time in the lab trying to design the perfect molecule, to be simple, right? I think with AI, you can do it. I mean, you can cut the time that you are using to select or to design your perfect molecule varies very, very significantly, from years to months, weeks. But this is not the only area in which we can use it. I mean, you can also predict the success in development if you have, it's all depending on the data that you have, right? Forget about AI. The most important topic for maximizing the impact is the quality of the data that you use and the amount of data that you have. So the more data you have, the more you can predict or accelerate any process, right? But this is where everything starts. When we started to use AI, the biggest challenge that we have was the quality of our data. So we have been really focusing on this to be able to be more AI ready. But I mean, you can everywhere. I mean, individually, I told you already where I am kind of using it and aiming to use it more and more. For the company, HR is very advanced. So everything that has to do with people, we model more and more through AI-driven platforms, AI in drug discovery, and then information for decision-making overall.
So will Merck get an AI board member anytime soon?
Look, the good thing is this is a bit like being digital, right? I mean, when I started in my career, I mean, I didn't even know how to write emails, how to use emails. So I got used to emails. I became absolutely obsessive with using that kind of communication and connectivity so fast. Then we entered the digital era, and you could basically look for any piece of information in seconds, right? So I think for AI is the same, is that you have to make sure that this is not a one expert in the company, but that the company is trained and upskilled to use it individually and collectively to accelerate growth, to be more efficient, or to accelerate innovation, at least in our case.
Looking ahead to the next 5 years or so, what technological breakthroughs will be possible using AI?
I mean, if we look at pharma, we want to, I want to think that we are going to be able to develop better drugs for patients and doing it in a faster way. And overall, advanced science at all levels, I don't know if you are familiar with our Future Insight Prize that we gave recently, but I am absolutely amazed by the richness of science that is around here. This year it went to regeneration of neurons, so brain regeneration, right? And of course, all this is happening. This is not visible, but integrating AI into any scientific research is going to allow a huge amplification and probably a much better efficiency and speed of outcomes, better outcomes.
Nach einer kurzen Unterbrechung geht es gleich weiter. Bleiben Sie dran.
Ob Geldanlage oder Karriere, Erfolg braucht Klarheit. An der Börse wie im Job kursieren Gerüchte, Trends und schnelle Versprechen. Die Wirtschaftswoche liefert, was wirklich zählt. Unabhängige Analysen, verlässliche Fakten und strategische Perspektiven. Damit Sie jederzeit die richtigen Entscheidungen treffen können. Für alle, die lieber klar sehen, statt blind zu folgen. Mehr auf vivo.de/für alle. Wirtschaftswoche. Weiter denken, weiter kommen.
I recently came across some really troubling data from the United States where AI is already replacing many entry-level jobs, and even university graduates are finding it harder to land their first positions coming out of university. Are these developments you think about as a CEO?
Very much. Very much. I mean, what is the impact of AI in the future of work is still an incognita. You know, for the time being, I used to say that I fear those people that use AI better than me, right? And that we should fear those people who use AI better than us, right? But we like it or not, this is going to have an impact. When and in what areas is still to be seen, but clearly it will, you know, ideally in certain professions and in certain activities and competences, it will be the combination of human and technology what is really maximizing the outcomes.
And if AI changes the very nature of work, how could or should our education system prepare for that future? Maybe first question, what skills really matter in future? And how, as a second question, should our education system change?
I mean, digital already revolutionized the education system to a certain extent, you know. I mean, 10 years ago, we started to say, okay, you know, we need more engineers, we need more data scientists, you know, we have to...
And maybe that's not true.
Shifting the workforce to integrate new capabilities, right? And this has happened already, you know, without losing too much on the global headcount. But the shift has already happened. I mean, we have 10 times more data scientists than we ever had in the company. You know, in 2011, nobody was thinking about data scientists. In 2015, we were already hiring tons of data scientists, right? So there has been already an evolution in the shape of the workforce. But once again...
What does it mean for the education system? What skills do our students need to learn?
We need to make our students the digital savvy, you know, and I mean, science, technology, engineering, so the STEM capabilities have to be groomed from very early on. I mean, this is something that has been happening in many
Germany,
countries.
the numbers are going down.
I know. But I mean, you know...
How is it possible to change that?
I think time came, you know, to look at education systems with the prisma of what we are going to need in 10 years from now, right? We will still need very highly qualified surgeons and physicians.
The question is, who can really say what we need in 10 years? Because so many jobs we see today might be replaced. And the question is, what skills will be left that can't be taken by AI?
I don't see a world, you know, hopefully it will not happen in my time, right? But I don't see a world in which machines are going to drive the world. I don't think this is going to be the case, right? But I imagine a world that is happening already in which, you know, people will be able to be better surgeons using robotics. I mean,
so machines will become the co-pilot.
Exactly. You know, and we will still need a human eye to make certain, to actually, you know, make a judgment call supported by technology to make a better judgment call. So I continue to see AI as an enabler, not as a replacement of, but definitely will have an impact on the shape of the workforce in many sectors, and we will see the way it unfolds as we continue to integrate this in our daily jobs. But I see a combination, and hopefully, you know, we will still be here to put our judgment and human eye.
I remember our last meeting was in Davos. We talked a lot about Germany and about the economic crisis in Germany, but also the plans Merck has in Germany. And that was a time when many corporates decided not to invest in Germany anymore and to go elsewhere. How are your plans at Merck for Germany and for investment all over the world? Do you shift investment elsewhere?
We diversified tremendously in the last 5 years. The pandemic already showed to us.
Because Germany is too risky?
No, because we need to be closer to the customers, right? And remember, during the pandemic, we have the Defense Production Act in the US that prevented us to send our critical products to manufacture vaccines.
So how
from the US to Europe, right? And that was, the pandemic was an eye opener, and really called for capacity building in a diversified world. So this is what we have been doing in recent years. Germany continues to be a place where we have invested 2.5 billion in the last 10 years until 2025, and it's our site. And
will this be the same in the next 10 years?
Yes, we are here to stay. We continue to be confident that Germany will definitely value the impact that we have on competitiveness, economic growth, and innovation. And therefore, there may be true for other sectors, but I can tell you for highly regulated sectors, you cannot move your factories overnight. Diversification and customer proximity is important, and this is what we have been doing for our sectors. But Germany is our home.
Would you invest more in Germany if your regulation, especially in the pharma sector, would get a little bit easier?
Yeah.
So what is holding you back? What kind of regulation is making investment more difficult?
But that is also applicable to Europe. I think making sure that innovation is rewarded and that, we cut red tape when it comes to approvals, consistency on reinvestment for new drugs, less fragmentation, and more consistency, and a true single market.
Less fragmentation exactly?
When I speak about fragmentation I speak about the country level versus the European level. We cannot have 27 regulations.
Right? On
pharma, on anything. We have to really make use of the single market. And here political willingness is absolutely key. And this is what I have been advocating for, because simplifying regulations and cutting red tape is critical, both in Germany and in Europe, and making sure that we ensure more agility on decision making. That is easy to say, but it's going to take time.
How is the tariff discussion changing the way you invest and changing your business?
Look, we try not to make strategic decisions on the basis of political considerations. What we have tried to do is to protect ourselves from trade restrictions, right, in the last few years by having more of a region by region approach, right? China for China, US, we have a huge presence in the US. Our biggest workforce is in the US. We continue to invest in the US. We have a huge presence in Europe, and we will continue to invest in Europe. So Europe, US, and China are our main source of business and growth. And once again, we are very well placed to protect ourselves from potential trade restrictions. That was the frame. Now the whole thing is getting more and more complicated, right? And tariffs is a moving target. So, the most important thing is that, you take the geopolitical situation very deep into your strategic thinking, but that you don't get into the volatility to make volatile decisions that may harm you in the longer term. So there is in times of uncertainty, risk is higher, and you have to put more emphasis on that.
It's not only the tariffs, it's also the drug price regulation in the United States. Donald Trump wants to bring drug prices down, and this would be a topic for Merck as well, right?
Look, our food, as I said, our footprint in the US is very significant. Our pharma business is a bit subscale in this context, so we have a bigger presence in life science and electronics. So we are a bit more protected, but our aspiration is to be bigger in the US, right? And therefore, first of all, I have said it and I have to repeat it. Making medicines more affordable is very legitimate, and the US is a free price market, and we have to come to terms on how do we balance, rewarding innovation with affordability. That's the real challenge. So I think that the president is stimulating a debate that is necessary, right? But he cannot go against his own request for investment in the US. So
because you wouldn't invest if you don't earn money.
It's not that drastic, but because the US is a very important market for most sectors. But obviously, if the price environment is drastically changed, the appetite for investment will lower.
Sure.
And this is of interest to no one.
Looking at Merck overall and investment in new technology in the next couple of years, what will be the fields of technology you will invest most in, and where will you see the most exciting innovations happening?
Well, our internal innovation model is very well defined. So in pharma, we are investing in now with the acquisition of SpringWorks, we will continue to fuel our rare disease nucleus, right? In life science,
company you bought for $3 billion.
Yeah, SpringWorks. So in life science, we need to catch up and make sure that we rejuvenate our portfolio on an ongoing basis and participate of new innovative areas that are now becoming dominant in research, like omics, genomics, proteomics, spatial biology, as we were discussing before. And in electronics, we are very well placed. We really cover with our semiconductors portfolio the full spectrum and the life cycle of manufacturing chips. But we need to also participate of new areas like metrology and advanced packaging, like we have basically done with the acquisition of Unity SC. So, as I mentioned, we cannot spread ourselves thin, and our top priority at this time, after having dealt with the challenge of sustainability of our pharma pillar, which is now in a very good place after the acquisition of SpringWorks, we will require additional investment on external innovation on an ongoing basis. The top priority is life science.
Any plans for acquisition?
Always, what
fields are you looking at?
We have been a very, as you know, we are a very active company when it comes to
I know, that's why it's always worth asking you.
Acquisitions and divestitures, because managing a portfolio requires both.
Yes.
That we acquire and that we divest. But usually it takes two, and M&A is not like going shopping. Usually,
it depends how much money you pay, right?
It's not only a matter of money. It's really identifying what is the best fit for your own strategy and providing sustainable growth.
Yeah. So, do you expect any bigger news this year?
Who knows?
That's not a no. There's another bigger news. Next year, your contract will end. So what are your feelings thinking of this date?
Look, this is a question that is unavoidable, so I'm always happy to hear the question. The only thing I can say is that I am absolutely committed to the longer term of Merck, and that I don't.
But you have to leave, right? Because contract. you can't extend, or is that? At
some point in time, definitely, I will have to retire one day, right? When is that going to happen? We will tell you.
Whenever this day might come, did you think about what you might do after this active role?
Oh, absolutely. I always have the longer term in mind. Not only, obviously the one of Merck, but I always think, with foresight, what I would like to do. Perhaps I will be back to clinical medicine. Why not?
Interesting.
That's fascinating. But so far, I am the CEO of Merck.
Belén, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Und damit sind wir jetzt auch schon wieder am Ende von Handelsblatt Disrupt zu den wichtigsten aktuellen Zukunftsfragen. Die Redaktion hatte Jan Lutz, Produktion Migo Fecke und Fabian Livret. Wenn euch diese Folge gefallen hat, dann empfehlt uns gerne weiter. Wir hören uns dann nächste Woche Freitag wieder. Bis dahin wünschen wir euch eine gute digitale, aber natürlich auch analoge Zeit. Euer Sebastian Matthes.